Good evening and welcome to the the second Senate session of the 16th Congress. I will now call the session to order at 9:51 p.m. EST. We will now move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Is there anyone that wishes to lead us in the pledge?
I do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Amen. We will now call the roll. Senator Clark. Senator Clark. Senator Clark.
Here.
Thank you. Senator Gatsby.
Present.
Senator Jacobs.
Present.
Senator Mulroney is here via proxy. Senator Reinhardt.
Present.
Senator Sawyer is here via proxy. Senator Steele.
He's deafened.
Senator Steele.
He's present.
He's present.
Okay. Senator Trafford.
Present.
Oops, wrong one. Hold on. Gotta fix this. Senator Turing is absent. Senator Walsh.
Present.
Senator Walsh is here, and I am present. A quorum is present with 7 members present, 1 absent, and 2 proxies. We will move on to the presentation of the agenda. Are there any motions to change it?
Motion to proceed.
Is there a
Second.
second? Motion moved by Reinhardt. And seconded by Walsh. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, nay. The opinion of the
Nay.
chairs, ayes have it, 7-0. We will proceed to general remarks.
Motion to proceed.
Is there a second?
Segundo.
We will proceed. Seeing that there is no one. We will proceed to the first item on the agenda. And that is HR 1601, Transparent Congress Act of 2017, presented by Mr. Rivetti. The floor is now open for questions and debate.
Motion to proceed to a vote.
Is there a
Seconded.
second? We will proceed to a vote. Also, if the President Pro Tempore would please put absent for Pierre throughout the thing. So,
For Pierre? Okay. I'll do that right now.
all right, we will proceed to a vote. Senator Clark, your vote.
Yay.
Senator Gatsby.
Aye.
Senator Jacobs.
Vote aye.
Senator Mulroney votes aye via proxy. Senator Reinhardt.
Aye.
Senator Sawyer votes aye via proxy. Senator Steele votes nay via proxy. Senator Trafford votes aye via proxy. Senator Walsh.
Aye.
The bill passes with 8 ayes, 1 nay, 0. We will proceed to the second item on the agenda, HR 1602, National Emergencies Act of 2017. The floor is now open for questions and debate.
I request the floor.
Senator Reinhardt has the floor.
Every few weeks we get or every few months, sorry, we get an act similar to this that would create a national security call sign, or some martial law act that is put forward to us and passed by the House, as it is the nation's rubber stamp, and we never actually, it's never taken seriously because 9 times out of 10, it's from some retired military officer who wants to continue to, keep his face in the national security limelight, or more often than not, it's from somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. Rivetti does fill the portion of the first, but I do say he is also the latter. He doesn't know what he's talking about with this, and I don't know why my colleagues are so adamantly in favor of this. I've looked at the proxies, and it's disgusting. Yes, it looks good. Yes, it's sexy, but when you look at the actual the substance of the bill. It's for a martial law, and we've never had this situation required in the entirety of the nation's history, going back 2.5 years. I don't see the need for it anytime soon, and I just see it as a way for executive abuse over the remaining portion of the country. That's why I urge those present, those who give enough of a shit to be present, to vote nay on this act, and I yield the floor.
The senator yields the floor, still open for questions and debate.
I request the floor.
Senator Gatsby, you have the floor.
I would just like to note that I have to head out, and I'd like to motion to submit the votes I posted in the proxy voting chat to be my voting for tonight's session. If someone would please kindly second.
Second.
All right. Your votes will be counted for Mr. President Pro Tempore, or if you would enter his votes.
Yes, I'll do it now.
Does the senator yield?
I yield the floor.
Senator Gatsby yields. The floor is still open for questions and debate. Due to the lack of
Motion to
debate,
proceed.
we will proceed to a vote.
Mm.
Senator Clark, your vote.
Aye.
Senator Gatsby votes aye via proxy. Senator Jacobs.
I vote aye.
Senator Mulroney votes aye via proxy. Senator Reinhardt.
Or nay, sorry, nay.
Senator Sawyer votes aye via proxy. Senator Steele votes aye via proxy. Senator Trafford votes aye via proxy. Senator Walsh.
Nay.
With 7 for, 2 against, 0 abstentions, the bill is passed. We will proceed to the third item on the agenda, H.R. 1603, Allied Relation Act, presented by Representative Anubis. The floor is open for questions and debate.
Motion to
I
proceed.
request floor.
Oh, Jesus.
Senator Jacobs, you are recognized.
All right, thank you. Although this bill has good intentions, I feel this bill has a couple flaws. Firstly, there are no punishments listed in the bills if the guidelines were not followed. So how would we enforce this? Secondly, why don't we leave it up to the Foreign Affairs Committee in both chambers of Congress to keep checks on the State Department, which is what they're tasked to do in the first place? We do not need this piece of legislation to do that. It is better to be enforced by the Congress and Secretary of State. So I ask you all to vote in the negative. I yield.
I request the floor.
The senator yields. Senator Clark, you're recognized.
Okay. I don't believe in, it is our responsibility to determine how the administration pursues its own foreign policy. I have full confidence in our Department of States and its attempts to create alliances and strengthen current ones. To also add, if this were to be even signed into law, as Senator Jacobs said, there is no proper way to enforce it, and if in violation, that is another way we cannot enforce the bill. With that, I encourage my Senate colleagues to vote nay on this piece of legislation. I yield the floor.
Motion
The
to
senator
proceed.
yields. Is there a second?
Second.
We will proceed to a vote. Senator Clark.
Nay.
Senator Gatsby votes nay via proxy. Senator Jacobs.
I vote nay.
Senator Mulroney votes aye via proxy. Senator Reinhardt.
No.
Senator Sawyer votes nay via proxy. Senator Steele votes abstain via proxy. Senator Trafford votes nay via proxy. Senator Walsh.
Nay.
With 1 in favor, 7 against, 1 abstention, I declare the bill failed. We will proceed to the fourth item on the agenda, S1608, the Rights of Employers, presented by Senator Ryan. The floor is open for questions.
I'd like the floor.
Senator Reinhardt is recognized.
Within the United States, we pride ourselves on the ability to have a free market only. In the USA, that's very much not the case. We have never truly had a free market or any private sector really to speak of. And though people may consider it bleak and pointless at this point, you have to, of course, have hope that the Commerce Department may eventually pull through, given the right incentives by the executive and legislation passed by the legislative. Now, if you look at the Rights of Employees Amendment, this will essentially put the boot right on the throat of whatever private sector we have and put pressure on until the neck snaps. So the idea here is to remove the private sector from any of the regulations that were passed by the Rights of Employees. And so much to speak, just letting them get off, but from any regulation, because there's still plenty of goddamn regulation and hoops they have to jump through. It's just excusing them from one more just useless act that if the public sector wants to bury itself in meaningless regulation, that's its right, but I don't believe that burden belongs on the private sector as well. I yield the floor and motion to proceed.
I second.
We will proceed to a vote. Senator Clark.
Aye.
Senator, oops, hold on. Senator Clark votes aye. Senator Gatsby votes aye via proxy. Senator Jacobs.
Aye.
Senator Mulroney votes aye via proxy. Senator Reinhardt. Senator Reinhardt, your vote.
Aye, sir.
Sorry. Senator Sawyer.
And again, sir.
Senator Sawyer, Steele, and Trafford vote aye via proxy. Senator Walsh.
Aye.
With 9 in favor, 0 against, and 0 abstentions, this bill passed. We will proceed to S1610, Reintroduced Military U.S. Code Inclusion Act of 2017, presented by Senator Walsh. The floor is open for questions and debate.
I request.
Senator Walsh is recognized.
Very briefly, just kind of go over the broad strokes of the bill. Previously, there was a bill proposed in the, I'm not sure which Congress, but it was last year, called the Goldwater-Nichols Act, which kind of organized the Department of Defense and created a chain of command and named the Chief of Staff of the Army as the primary military advisor. There was a bill proposed by Senator Steele, which I believe was signed, I'm not sure if it has or not yet, which abolishes that act because the bill that I made was amending the U.S. Code. And essentially, what I've proposed today is the same concept, except we are making additions to our U.S. Code rather than amending the real-life U.S. Code. I've got Senator Reinhardt's support, who is obviously an integral part of reforming our armed forces and understands the nature of having a chain of command and someone that assists the President and the National Security Advisor in providing advice and such. So I encourage my colleagues to vote in favor, and I yield.
Motion to proceed.
Senator yields. Is there a second? Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
We will proceed to a vote on item number 5. Senator Clark.
I vote aye.
Senator Gatsby votes aye via proxy. Senator Jacobs.
Aye.
Senator Mulroney abstains. Senator Reinhardt.
Aye, sir.
Senator Sawyer, Steele, and Trafford vote aye via proxy. Senator Walsh.
Aye.
The bill passes with 8 in the affirmative, 0 against, 1 abstention. We will proceed to item 6 at 1612, COPA Remnant Repeal Act, presented by Senator Ryan. The floor is open for questions and debate. Senator Reinhardt is recognized.
Get rid of the Stolen Valor Amendment that was added on to the Criminal Offense and Punishment Act, which was struck down by the Supreme Court in April. I'm really not sure why it's still here. It's a good question for the 15th Congress, but I'm glad to pick up their mess, I suppose. So, all it does is just repeals an amendment onto a now defunct law. There should be no reason to abstain or vote nay unless there's a brain tumor or something, but why would anyone in the Senate have a brain tumor? That's ridiculous. I relinquish my time and I motion to proceed.
Is there a second? Would anyone else like to-
Segundo.
Thank you. We'll proceed to vote on item 6. Senator Clark.
I vote.
You vote what?
Vote aye.
Senator Gatsby votes aye via proxy. Senator Jacobs.
I vote aye.
Senator Mulroney votes aye via proxy. Senator Reinhardt.
Yay, sir. Aye.
Senator Sawyer, Steele, and Trafford vote aye via proxy. Senator Walsh.
Aye.
The bill passes with 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions. We will proceed to the 7th item on the agenda as 1613 Court Barring Act presented by Senator Reinhardt. The floor is open for questions and debate.
Request the floor.
Senator Reinhardt, you're recognized.
I'm incredibly curious why the Unity Caucus and my caucus leader has taken a stance against this, and also his mirror, Mr. Trafford, of course. This act essentially just it gets rid of an act. It really doesn't do anything. There was an act that was proposed 2 Congresses ago that enables people who failed the immigration process to appeal to the U.S. courts. The Supreme Court had a decision about that, which was recently abolished for no good reason other than what I believe the incompetence of the U.S. Supreme Court, which has manifested itself very prevalently in recent weeks. But it gets rid of the ability for people who failed the immigration process, which is there for a reason, to access our court system and tie it up with frivolous appeals. Because if the CIS is a very competent and one of our most competent agencies. If they look through and they check all the boxes for this is an alternate account or this is a bot, then 9 times out of 10 they are right. And if they aren't right, then what you do is you leave the group and you reapply for citizenship. It's not something that needs to burden our court system, and it's not a right that any foreigner has to access our courts. And I'm incredibly disgusted by the senator from Colorado and the 2 from New Jersey that they're voting against this, and I believe it's nothing more than to virtue signal to a non-existent Latino population. I ask my colleagues to vote in the affirmative or voice here so I can answer any question or debate the issue before we move to a vote, and I relinquish the remainder of my time.
The senator yields. The floor is open.
I request.
Senator Walsh is recognized.
I wanted to touch up on some of the points the senator made. One of the points he said is that the right for an immigrant to have access to our court system is not a right that we have currently. But I would like to direct the Senate's attention to one of the most recent decisions made by the Supreme Court, Clements v. U.S., which rolled back portions of UCIS v. Guy Berner, which Senator Reinhardt cites in his bill.
Can I make a comment on that?
There would have to be a motion for open debate.
Afterwards, yes. So I want us to read over page 6, paragraph 2, real quick, and I'll go ahead and read it for you. It's not too terribly long. Which was ruled by the Supreme Court recently. It says, therefore, this court's find that the ruling in USCIS declaring immigrants to the United States are not and cannot be afforded any rights to the U.S. Constitution granted to American citizens is unconstitutional, as it disregards the fundamental principle of substantive due process, ignores the First, Fourth, Fifth, and real life, and many other amendments, and has no foundation in legal reasoning. The court hereby overturns the previous precedent set in USCIS, which denied all constitutional rights to non-citizens. As to the question of how non-citizens are to be treated, and the question of rights they have, the court finds that the precedents and rules used prior to the USCIS ruling shall suffice.
Now,
the basis for this decision was, and I know that we don't necessarily take things in real life as our law, but we can use real-life court cases and cite them and say, here's our legal reasoning. There was a Supreme Court case, Chu v. Colding, decided in 1953, which held that illegal aliens with a clear presence in the U.S. are guaranteed due process by our courts under the Fifth Amendment. And what I would like to say is that I oppose this bill because of the simple fact that I feel as if someone fails their immigration appeals, that they should be able to go to the court and appeal that decision. We already have issues with not having enough cases. We don't have people go to D.C. commit crimes. We don't have cases as often in the federal court. This is a fine example of giving the court something to do, in addition to allowing people to appeal the immigrant process. Now, if there are issues with the current bill that the senator has problems with, I'm willing to work for an amendment or proposing a new bill regarding the failed immigrant appeal process. But as it currently stands, I am opposed to this bill, and I yield my time.
Request for.
Senator Reinhardt is recognized.
I'm incredibly curious, though, even though I've handed you this act, why you didn't bring any of that up then. You just shook it off and said, I don't want my name on it. And I was like, okay, that's perfectly reasonable. I thought that'd mean you would, quietly voice your concerns or have to put your name on it. However, all of those acts, all of those rights imply, like the fact that they have the right to the 4th, 5th, and what have you, it implies that they are, in fact, citizens, sir. Only citizens have the right to the U.S. Constitution, and saying anything else is just factually inaccurate. Now, judicial activism has plagued our court system here due to the massive Democratic majority, and you cannot strike down a ruling on the U.S. Constitution, which is what Guy Berner was, over some frivolous appeal based on that. You cannot overrule precedents, and it's very rare, and it's incredibly debatable when you look at the history of our legal system, if you can at least overrule precedents. And if you're ever curious on where to read, you can read a paper written by Rankworth in the late 50s on it. But that's one thing that I would brought up, the incompetence of our current Supreme Court. You look the fact that they have the idea and the audacity to believe that they can overrule clear precedents without any legislative or constitutional change is the idea that the law swings in the wind like a ripped flag. It's disgusting. The senator's points are completely unfounded. You cannot hold said rights if you are not a U.S. citizen. That's why you don't hear about a lot of First Amendment issues in Nigeria, for example. More so, I believe that Jennifer Hartson is not only either misled or being willfully blind to the rule of precedence, but she's entirely incompetent and shouldn't have ever been nominated to her position on the Supreme Court. The only reason she has the post is because she's friends with the president, and I stand by that. If there's anyone else I would like to speak, or if Mr. Walsh would like to continue the back and forth, I'm perfectly open, and I yield my time.
The senator yields. Senator Walsh is recognized.
Firstly, to the point that you said I didn't bring my opposition forth on this legislation is completely false. You can see the screenshot right there where I clearly told you I was opposed to the bill and why. Secondly, today we're not here to argue about whether or not you agree with this court decision or not, or whether you think that it's unethical to roll back portions of precedents. All I'm saying is that this is our law, because this Supreme Court decision was made. And we have to move past it, whether you agree with it or not, and adapt. And so, that's what I think about that. In addition, you said that you asserted once again that immigrants have no legal right to the First and Fourth Amendments, which I clearly stated. There was a Supreme Court ruling in the 50s, which stated that
we don't follow.
Let me see. It says aliens with a clear presence in the U.S.
Point
are guaranteed
of order, Mr. Vice President. We do not follow real-life laws as per stated when Jones v. Copeland.
Well, yes, but we follow Clements v. U.S., which stated the exact same thing.
Well, then cite Clements v. U.S., sir.
Okay. Well, what I'm trying to say here is I understand Chu v. Colding is not real, or we don't take real-life stuff, but we can make precedents based on real-life things, based on what the rulings state. What we just did.
Order.
And I also don't think the senators recognize. But the Clements v. U.S. Clearly states that immigrants are afforded these rights. I'm not sure why he's asserting that they don't. It's clearly written in the ruling. So once again, I urge my Senate colleagues to oppose this bill, and I yield.
The senator yields. The floor is open.
I motion to proceed.
I request.
Okay.
I request.
Senator Reinhardt is recognized.
I'm going to just address one thing here, and then I'm going to motion to proceed. But you said it's the law. If I don't like it, I have to follow it regardless. That's true in most cases, but that doesn't mean the First Amendment doesn't exist to debate it, sir. Now, what was also the law and what it also states in precedence is the Guy Berner case. If Jen can ignore the Guy Berner case and overrule the Guy Berner case, then I can easily ignore and overrule Clemens v. U.S. Now, at the same time, you say, I'm just saying.
The thing is, you can't overrule.
Order. The senator
is mine.
North Carolina is recognized.
Now, I have to follow the law, yes, but again, debate in law is part of the, American. Now, I believe there was this little issue in the 1950s that some people used their First Amendment voice to debate what was at the time the de facto law, and I believe that was segregation. I'm saying this, of course, the senator from Texas, but was also the law, but it was debated and changed. I'm saying that immigrants have no right to our legal system. I stand by that, and this law prevents that. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, but people who are not born in the United States, do not pay taxes to the United States, and do not vote in the United States, should not have access to our court system. Just because we are the greatest country on this earth, that doesn't also mean we have to be the overly compassionate to the point where we let foreigners access our courts and set, judicial precedents. It's disgusting, and I believe your disregard for that is just fundamentally un-American, sir. I motion to proceed.
I request
Is there
one
a
last
second?
time.
I still have the floor, sir. I just motion to proceed. But
Oh my God! The senator from North Carolina is still recognized since he did not yield.
yes. Would I get second if I motion the floor right now?
You wouldn't.
Is there a second to the senator from North Carolina's motion?
Okay, then I'll continue speaking. Now, I'm really,
Are you going to
really curious.
filibuster your own bill?
Order. The senator from North Carolina is recognized.
I
If you wish
motion to have an
debate-
open debate.
Is there a
Second.
Mr. All in favor of the motion to open debate, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Please keep this orderly. Allow Rosie to finish his point, and then
Fine,
have
go ahead.
add it in a respectful manner. Floor is open for open debate.
Oh, yes. I request.
No, it's open.
It's open debate.
Oh, it's open debate. Okay, well, whatever.
Just go.
Well, I really just wanted to make one last point, and then Rosie can say something, and then he can motion proceed. Is I can't stress this enough that in real life and in our court system, we have established that immigrants do have this right to due process, and they have a right to our court system, and this bill would be denying that due process to many people who wish to become citizens and are denied that. So, lastly, I ask everyone once again to vote down this bill, and yeah, I'm done. I guess I can't say I yield since this is open debate, but yeah.
The point that the mental gymnastics required to understand that immigrants don't have the right to the First Amendment, or they do have the right, but they do have the right to, due process, is just completely jarring right now. I don't understand how any judges in the real world can process that, or in conjunction anyone here can judge that other than.
Supreme Court processed it.
Well, the Supreme Court does a lot of things, like, for example, declare that people aren't people. For example, Mr. Walsh, I don't really have a whole lot of trust, and I don't believe the American people do either in their competence at the current moment. Given the very high showing of 2 justices at their last session, I'm sure that they are, the most competent and best people that the president could find for the job, and not just some people that he picked out and shoved through a call late at night. Now, of course, the Supreme Court's going to say what the Supreme Court says, but in the end, we write the law, they interpret it. That's why I'm pushing this forward. And I just can't process the mental gymnastics that they're able to, that they are afforded several rights, but not others. And again, that's the fundamental thing that I wrote about in Guy Berner. If they have these rights, but they don't have any rights, or any other rights, then that means they are sub-citizens and subhuman, so to speak. If they are, foreign entities to which they belong to, or a part of their own country, then that makes sense. Everyone's equal. They're just in groups of called nationalities, and we have borders that separate nationalities. This makes a lot more sense, see, than I don't know whatever you're doing here, but because of that, I motion to proceed because this debate's gone on far too long.
I
regardless.
second.
So,
We will proceed to a vote. Senator Clark, your vote.
Nay.
Senator Gatsby votes nay via proxy. Senator Jacobs.
I vote nay.
Senator Mulroney votes aye via proxy. Senator Reinhardt.
aye.
Senator Sawyer votes nay via proxy. Senator Steele votes aye via proxy. Senator Trafford votes nay via proxy. Senator Walsh.
Nay.
In the opinion of the chair, the bill fails with 3 in the affirmative, 6 against, 0 abstentions. We will proceed to the 8th item on the agenda, S-1614, the National Security Act of 2017, presented by Senator Walsh and co-authored by President Russo. The floor is open for questions and debate.
Motion to proceed.
I
Is there a
second.
second?
Segundo.
We'll proceed to a vote. Senator Clark.
What number is this?
This is the 8th item on the agenda.
Aye.
Senator Gatsby votes aye via proxy. Senator Jacobs.
I vote aye.
Senator Mulroney votes abstain. Senator Reinhardt.
Aye.
Senator Sawyer, Steele, and Trafford vote aye via proxy. Senator Walsh.
Aye.
The bill passes with 8 in favor, 0 against, 1 abstain. We'll proceed to the 9th item on the agenda, Electoral Integrity Protection Act, presented by Senator Steele. The floor is open for questions and debate.
Motion to proceed.
I second.
Is there a
Second.
second? We'll proceed to a vote. Senator Clark.
Aye.
On what?
Aye.
Senator Gatsby votes aye via proxy. Senator Jake.
Aye.
Senator Mulroney votes aye via proxy. Senator Reinhardt.
Aye.
Senator Reinhardt.
My microphone does not pick up when I give aye because there's not enough bass. So I'm just going to say affirmative, and you know exactly what it means. So affirmative.
Thank you. Senator Sawyer, Steele, and Trafford vote aye via proxy. Senator Walsh.
Aye.
In the opinion of the chair, the bill passes with 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstains. We will proceed to the 10th item on the agenda, the Green Nobility Clause waiver, presented by Senator Reinhardt. The floor is open for questions and debate.
I request.
Senator Clark, you are recognized.
Thank you. I believe the Secretary of State fully deserves this. He's a loyal patriot to our mission. To include, as of the past, we should not block, even if they're the Secretary of State participating in other nations within road nations, especially since there is a plan for us in place in the end, which will be to our harvest and triumph. And even though that the Secretary is foolish enough to support Attorney General Clinton in primaries, give it to him. I encourage my Senate colleagues to vote in the affirmative. I yield the floor.
The senator yields. The floor is open for
Across
questions
the
and
floor.
debate. Senator Reinhardt, you are recognized.
I'd like to point out that it's not a debate on the nobility clause itself to the senator from Missouri. I'd like to state that it is a question on if we should exempt green from the nobility clause. So no, you made reference to the position of the Secretary of State. That's why I'm stating this, sir, just for your clarification and the clarification of anyone who's listening who hasn't read the bills to the.
Thank you, sir.
Was asked by the president to draft this. He had the confidence in me to do such. I will vote in the affirmative, and I urge my colleagues to do similarly. I relinquish my time.
The senator
Motion to proceed.
yields.
I
Is there a
second.
second?
Seconded.
We'll proceed to a vote. Senator Clark.
I vote.
Senator Jacobs.
I vote aye, and Senator Gatsby vote nay in proxy.
Oh, sorry. Senator Gatsby votes nay via proxy. You're correct. Senator Mulroney votes nay via proxy. Senator Reinhardt.
Affirmative.
Senator Sawyer votes aye via proxy. Senator Steele votes abstain. Senator Trafford votes nay in proxy. Senator Walsh,
Aye.
with 5 in favor, 3 against, 1 abstention, the waiver passes the Senate. And we will proceed to the last item on the agenda, S1617, Second COPA Remnant Repeal Act, presented by Senator Reinhardt. The floor is open for questions and debate.
I request the floor.
Senator Reinhardt, you are recognized.
The reason why the COPA Remnant Acts weren't put together is because I was handed these other 2 acts that I was completely unaware of that even existed that needed repeal similar to the first one. But by then, I had already built a sponsor list, and it would have been a gentle pain in the ass to go through and alert everyone, because people are not big fans. Change the bill. I'm speaking from experience on both sides of the angle. And also, given the fact that I was alerted to this at about 10 o'clock last night, there wasn't enough time to alert and make sure everyone was there. I didn't want to gut the sponsor list on the first one, because I cannot advocate for this bill on the first one can in the opposing chamber. I don't like it when somebody passes a second law to bring their bill count up, and I'm explaining very clearly that that is not what I'm doing here. I ask my colleagues excuse this issue. I believe I've worked hard in the past few days to get enough bills on the floor that a few errors are applicable, and I will try to keep them to a minimum in the future. Colleagues to vote in the affirmative. I yield the floor and motion proceed.
Is there a second?
I second.
Segundo.
We will proceed to a vote on the last item on this agenda. Senator Clark.
Aye.
Senator Gatsby votes aye via proxy. Senator Jacobs.
I vote in the affirmative.
Thank you. Senator Mulroney votes aye via proxy. Senator Ryan.
Affirmative.
Senator Sawyer, Steele, and Trafford vote aye via proxy. Senator Walsh.
C.
Thank you. In the opinion of the chair, the bill passes with 9 in favor, 0 against, and 0 abstentions. Seeing that we have reached the final item on the regular order, we will proceed to closing
To
remarks.
adjourn.
Second.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye, senor.
All opposed, no.
Nay.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes
Actually,
have
for
it.
nays.
Pardon?
I changed my vote to aye. I'm not gonna drag
In
this
the
on.
opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. 3-1. And the session is hereby adjourned